Hello, welcome to In the Pocket Across the Pond. I'm Lewis. I'm joined as always by the two Alexes, and congratulations if you won your Fantasy Football League this past week. We're going to be having a look at some of the players that maybe got you that championship, and maybe some of the players that lost you it as well. And as always, we're going to be giving you our projection beaters this week, because if you're one of those weirdos that has the championship in week 18, we've still got some fantasy analysis for you, so enjoy. Well, Championship week came and went. Some people want to remember it forever, some people want to forget about it. The day after, straight away up top for the listeners, I was a loser in Championship week, Championship game. So I feel your pain. Congratulations to the winner of our league. It was a rough one. And we'll get into the list of players that either busted or just did you no favours this week. However, there were a lot of players and teams that helped you out quite a lot. Let's look at some of those games to start with. Where else other than the Ravens to kick us off? 56 Ravens, 19 Dolphins, putting the whole league on notice. So it feels like we've been going through cycles this year of, the Eagles are the best team. No, the Cowboys are the best team. No, the 49ers are the best team. No, the Ravens are the best team. Are the Ravens actually the best team now, Lou? Is there anything going to change before the playoffs or Super Bowl? Unless, the Bills beat the Dolphins by 70, then no, the Ravens are the best team. Stomped them. The Ravens seem to always smash the Dolphins. I'm just remembering, in Lamar Jackson's first MVP season. Which I think, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? His only MVP season. I said that purposefully. I didn't misspeak. I said his first MVP season because this will be his second. I remember I think it was opening week that they absolutely stomped the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins were a completely different team back then, obviously, but crazy. Just briefly, I know the question was about the Ravens. Briefly on the Dolphins, I just think it's absolutely mental how a team in the same season can win 70-20 and then also lose 56-19. Sorry, I think that's crazy. Personally, it is crazy. Yeah. I mean, you talked about Lamar Jackson. He's thrown 3,000. He already surpassed 3,600 passing yards. That beats his previous MVP season by about 500 yards. From the 24 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. He's probably not going to get 1,000 yards rushing on the ground in the regular season, but still 800 yards. I mean, Sharps, who stops the Ravens before the Super Bowl? If anyone.
Before the Super Bowl, I don't think anyone stops them before the Super Bowl. I don't think they win the Super Bowl. But I don't think the Dolphins have it. I feel like the Chiefs are one of the ones who are going to make everyone look silly by being rubbish and then still somehow inadvertently winning. But they just look bad. And like a 10-6 record at the minute is just so ordinary for this team. I'm not worried about the Browns. There's always something in me that thinks the Bills will win a playoff game, but they never seem to. So, it really comes down for me is will the Dolphins beat them? And they've just hammered the Dolphins. So, I think they've got a clear path as long as they don't bottle it.
I mean, Bills on a 4-game winning streak. Everyone else in the AFC East lost this past weekend. The Chiefs, we don't want to take the kind of count them out or kind of take them for granted because, as long as we've been watching the NFL pretty much, the Chiefs being in the AFC Championship game is a given. It would be a complete anomaly to our footballing NFL lives and knowledge if the Chiefs didn't make it to the AFC Championship game. So, like you're saying, Sharples, let's not count them out.
But it's, on the Chiefs, like, speaking quite disparagingly, they did just win their 8th straight AFC West title with the win this week. But I will say, I completely agree with the two of you. You know, like, we try and watch Red Zone every week. Obviously, the past couple of weeks, you know, you've had Christmas Eve, you've had New Year's Eve, so maybe, you can't watch all of it. So I've been, watching the highlights on YouTube, the impeccably edited highlights that don't sometimes miss a touchdown and repeat plays 3 times over.
I don't. Do you think they get a machine to edit those highlights?
I don't know. But yeah,
machine that doesn't work very well.
Sometimes I'm having to watch the highlights on there, and the Chiefs was one of those games. One of the quite few games this week that I had to watch the highlights of, and it speaks volumes that was definitely the last one I thought of, and it was like, oh right, I've watched the rest of them, I gotta watch the Chiefs highlights. When in any other season would you not want to watch the Kansas City Chiefs highlights? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they put the Bengals away, well and truly kind of putting an end to the Bengals. Valiant fight after Burrow went down. Mahomes, 245 yards and 1 touchdown. It was Pacheco that really had a monster one in that game. But back to other teams in the AFC. How about the Browns on that Thursday night? Just completely putting it on the Jets. 37 points. Joe Flacco falling asleep on the sideline. Is Flacco an elite QB? Sharples.
Oh, Donald Trump thinks so. So, yeah, it must be.
I will preface that that's an old clip, but it's just sort of resurfaced. You can understand why it's resurfaced. I think that clip was going around when he was the Jets quarterback.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's
a great quarterback.
He's playing elite. He is playing elite.
Yeah, there was that video of him like falling asleep on the sideline, and there was like a comment on it that was like, "This guy's got 5 kids. This is any time he sits down for more than 30 seconds." Like, yeah, fair play. Pretty contentious victory though for a team close to our hearts, the Dallas Cowboys.
Cheats.
Are the Dallas Cowboys now cheating cheaters, Lou? You've got a bit more information on this.
No, I have a bit of a play that I play of what
Is
happened.
Is that a no to we're not cheating cheaters?
Yeah, I'm going to explain how the Lions were actually attempting to cheat.
Right.
But no, which is, by the way, I just preface a joke. Poor officiating. Poor officiating. Lions. I'm not going to say the Lions should have won the game because there would have been time on the clock. You never know what could happen. But I will say the Lions should have gone ahead in that game. But Cowboys pretty much had the game won, but couldn't gain the yardage needed with just over 2 minutes to go. There was a bad call by the rest that led to that. We'll get to that. Lions marched up the field, scored a touchdown, just over a minute left of the game. 2-point conversion. Lions score on the 2-point conversion. They go up 20-19. There you go. You think, okay, they've sewn it up. Jared Goff, he found lineman Taylor Decker in the end zone. Officials flag Decker, claiming that he didn't report as an eligible receiver to the refs. Brad Allen was the ref in question. He claims that Dan Skipper, another lineman, was the one who reported as eligible, not Decker. So justified the flag on the player. So the Lions try the 2-point again after a couple of different fouls, which saw the ball, coming back, then forward, blah, blah, blah. Their actual 2-point attempt, which was upheld, didn't work. So the Cowboys won the game. Obviously, the reactions to this have been pretty horrendous for Brad Allen and his team, who have made a lot of controversial and poor calls this season. If you want to look into that, there's too many to sort of actually talk about. People obviously want the rest to be held accountable. They're not, because they're already reffing the Ravens-Steelers game. I think that's in prime time as well. So they're just not being held accountable for it, really. And, you know, I mean, people saying they should be fired, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. It's not going to get overturned. That is the result of the game. You know, as I said before, 20 seconds left in the game, the Cowboys could have come back and scored. I was watching a bit of Pro Football Talk, and Mike Florio made an argument that, now, this might be like an excuse for the refs, which I'm not fully buying, but he made the argument that the Lions play that they were running on that 2-point conversion was purposefully trying to mislead the Cowboys as to who was eligible out of those linemen. And in doing that, they also confused the refs. That's his argument. Now, that being said, if you're an NFL ref, you still need to be switched on to those things. It's literally a job. You can't let the moment, the crowd, the players, the confusing play call get the better of you. It's literally your job to understand what's happening in the game. And also, that play most likely would have been talked through in the pre-game meeting between the team and the refs. So it comes down to poor officiating, like we talk about in the Premier League over here all the time. There needs to be a higher standard. And the funny thing is about all of this play would have never happened if the refereeing team didn't get a call wrong 2 minutes earlier when they called tripping on the Cowboys when it should have been on Aidan Hutchinson. That call gets flipped the other side the correct way. The Cowboys get the yardage. They've won the game. You know, they see out the clock. So it's poor officiating. You got to feel bad for the Lions. You know, you do have to feel it's incredibly unjust that the Lions didn't go ahead in that game. But it comes down to the officiating, really. Like, I don't know what can be done at this point. Like, you can't, as a Cowboys fan, like, yeah, the Lions should have gone ahead. I'm not denying that, but the Cowboys won. And, you know, it's a bit disheartening if you're the Lions, because what are you meant to do if you're the Lions? Answer me this, like, so a team's meant to, you know, dumb down their play calls so that the refs understand what's happening. Is that what they're trying to say? Like, in fear that the ref isn't going to understand and flag you, I guess. But that's essentially what went down and how the Lions tried to cheat.
Yeah, in conclusion, the Lions tried to cheat first. Yeah. Elsewhere, Texans somehow scored 26 points. I urge everyone to go to the box score of this game and try to add up how the Texans scored 26 points. The Bears, with a big win over everyone's favourite team, the Falcons. The Bears showing us that, as we say every week, they're not that bad. Not that bad team, and people in the stands chanting, "We want Fields. We want Fields." Now, I don't know whether the owners are taking that as Justin Fields or whether they heard it as, "We want a new field and they're going to get turf in at that stadium." Unclear. The Saints,
just fans of agriculture in general.
Yeah, we want Fields. I like Fields.
I like Fields. Rolling Fields.
I love rolling Fields.
I love Fields as
well. I love Justin Fields for some games. Other games, no. The Saints upsetting the Buccaneers, setting up a bit of a final week showdown. Unfortunately, it is the Buccaneers who play the Panthers in that final week, so they're probably going to get into the playoffs. The Panthers just got beat 26-0 to the Jaguars, and the Panthers owner is a huge moron. Huge moron. The Bills, as we mentioned before, keep it rolling against the Patriots, who, you know, they're fighting. They're putting up 21 points. The Colts beat the Raiders, just putting another kind of another reminder that Shane Steichen should probably be in consideration for Coach of the Year. Giants played the Rams really hard, but the Rams won. 49ers back at it.
Rams lost that on a missed field goal as well. Giants should have won that game.
Giants,
yeah. I mean, you know, little side note, but do you think that Daboll's doing enough to keep that job, putting up a bit of a fight at the end of the season in some games?
Yeah, I mean, he was many kind of sporting kind of shows coach of the year last year. I don't know, was he the official NFL coach of the year? I know he was a few kind of, like I said, sporting talk shows coach of the year last year. I think he built up enough kind of good merit last year to warrant one bad year. But who knows? Bill Belichick's had one bad year and he might be getting the boot. 49ers back at it. Brock Purdy, 230-2. Standard Brock Purdy.
Boo.
Stat line. Boo earns. Boo earns why?
Brock Purdy.
Boo earns, yeah.
I'm done
He
with
burned
him.
you the week before. He burned you the week before, and then he's just saying, I'm back on track. For all those people that got knocked out of the fantasy semi-finals because of me, I'm back on track. I'm having the most Brock Purdy game ever. The Steelers upset the Seahawks. Seahawks, like all season, I go back to the table, to the standings, and I see that somehow the Seahawks are still in contention for the playoffs. And even though it feels like every week we talk about them losing, it defies all logic. We talked about the Chiefs, Broncos winning the worst game of the weekend, and the Packers. Here's one, lads. Jordan Love. What are we thinking? Give me a score out of 10 on Jordan Love's rookie year, and then give me a kind of word for his future going forward as the quarterback of the Packers. Lou,
All right.
and what about the score out of 10 for his rookie for his not rookie season, his first year starting?
7.5.
Yeah, Sharps.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I'd give him about 7.5. And a word. Yeah.
Sausages.
These are more noises than words.
There's more noises. Sorry, I'm used to that segment where we made the noises. Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
He could be all right. I mean, I think it's hard to judge him against the likes of, Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's not near as good as Rodgers, but like Rodgers had Devontae Adams for ages and ages.
Yeah.
Who's Jordan Love's Devontae Adams?
Well, he's got plenty of them, though.
That was at least
He's got plenty of
50
them,
words. That was at least 50 words.
I know.
No, that was
You never know.
That was
I will say, on Jordan Love, I saw
Jordan, go on.
I saw the most.
on.
We like to laugh at the irrelevant stats that NFL posts and stuff like that. I saw genuinely the stupidest, most irrelevant stat this week on their Instagram.
Go on.
It was like a list of all Chicago Bear quarterbacks and the passing yardage, and then Jordan Love's, and it said Jordan Love has now thrown for more yards than any quarterback in Bears history, and it's like, but he doesn't play for the Bears. He plays for the Packers. Why? Who cares?
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I just thought that was really stupid and irrelevant.
Yeah, but to answer Sharps' question, well, maybe Jaden Reed or Romeo Dowes or Christian Dobbs, or Christian Watson could be his Devontae Adams, or Bo Melton.
Not Wicks.
Oh,
not
Melton,
Dontavian Wicks.
Melton Mowbray coming in with 6 receptions for 105 yards and 1 touchdown, the Pope Pie himself this week.
the pork pie himself.
I love it how if by chance any Americans listen to this podcast, they will not get that reference. And that is great. But yeah, the Packers won. I've left one game out though. It's the Eagles losing to the Cardinals. Before we go off on the Eagles, Cardinals, you've got a quarterback there. Mm-hmm. He's better than most of them in the league. He threw a pretty bad interception, but after that he was unbelievable in this game. The running game was going as well. They were just racking up yards against this Eagles defense. What is going to happen with this Eagles team in the playoffs? Because they're going to be in the playoffs. They're probably going to be a wild card team when the Cowboys win next week. But Lou, what happened in this one with the Eagles?
What happened is what we've been saying for weeks and weeks, months maybe. This defense is awful. It's awful. At the bottom 10 in yards allowed, 4th most points allowed in the whole league. across the whole season, because we're going into the last week of the season, and they've allowed the 4th most points. That's for like the Cardinals to do, not the Eagles. And now you're seeing this offense is struggling to keep up with what the defense is giving up, like we said they would do, because they're getting fatigued because they're having to put up 31 points to maybe win every week. I don't. It's the Eagles. They've got a dynamic quarterback, a really good offense. So who knows in the playoffs? But defense wins championships.
Sharples, who'd have thought that it would come to fantasy championship weekend and you would get more fantasy value out of your Cardinals than your Eagles? But that's what happened, wasn't it?
Well, unless for some strange reason you thought it was 2010 and you picked Julio Jones up because 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
To be fair, I feel like that went under the radar when he joined, but we probably should have been asking questions then. I know it's the defense that we're worried about, but why on earth did they pick up Julio Jones?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I was it the start of this year where I said the Cardinals would go 0-17? I think it was. They've looked really good since Kyler's come back.
They were playing hard before that as well, yeah.
Yeah, McBride looks like he might be the next tight end one. It's going to be out of him or Laporta, I think, going forward. And Kyler Murray, I don't know if while he was injured he got a chance to rethink and maybe put down the PlayStation controller and picked up a playbook. I don't know, but they look good and we shouldn't take anything away from them.
Yeah.
You're right. This Eagles defense, despite the fact that on paper and some of its names, I mean, Big Play Slay and Hassan Reddick and the 2 big mean defensive tackles, Jordan Davis. Why aren't they doing things?
Exactly.
They're being paid like they're doing things. They just aren't doing things.
Exactly. I mean,
it's the scheming,
Cardinals,
isn't it?
Cardinals, they all drove to work. They've got that fire in the stomach.
They got that.
Just Google the Jonathan Gannon. Pre-game talk. If you thought that was gibberish, yes. But yeah, I mean, there's this thing where it's like, is Sirianni being found out a little bit? I mean, we're talking about Shane Steichen potentially being coach of the year. That Colts offense has only scored less than 20 points 2 times all season, something like that. And now this Eagles offense, okay, they scored 31 points against, let's be honest, a pretty bad Cardinals defense at the moment. They play hard and they've got some talent, but it's a rebuild, this Cardinals team.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals as well. Like you invest in this upcoming draft in the defensive pieces, and you get yourself just one true stud wide receiver, and you've got a good team there. You've got a really good team.
I agree. I would agree.
T. Higgins to the Cardinals. You heard this here first. T. Higgins to the Cardinals.
Oh, that would be nice. Impressive victory this week, lads. Lou?
Ravens.
Sharps?
Yeah, only one way to go, Ravens.
I put AFC North because I do think Ravens, Browns, Steelers. I was really impressed with the Browns game. I think if Steichen doesn't win Coach of the Year, it's because Stefanski has. But yeah, Ravens. Not buying it, win, Lou.
I went with the Saints just because even if they get to the playoffs, they're not competing against anybody.
No, Sharps.
I went for the Chiefs.
Ooh.
Just think, it might be because I was forced to watch that full Raiders match on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or Boxing Day. I can't remember what it was, but since then I've just been so down on them, and yeah, they might make me look a fool, but equally if they got bounced in the first round, I don't think too many people would bat an eyelid.
I went with the Cowboys.
Whoa.
Wow.
Because I wasn't convinced by the victory, by the manner of victory, or the way that they played. I'm really not as confident in them going into the playoffs if this is currently how they're playing. So I went.
Lou's speech though about the fact that if they hadn't missed that call in the first quarter in 1995,
okay, you've missed the point. You've missed the point of the breakdown.
The butterfly effect is basically what he was talking about.
The point of the breakdown wasn't, that call didn't go earlier on, so the point was the officiating is poor regardless.
But yeah, I want to get back to scoring 35 points again in arenas every game. Was this thing that? Sorry, where was? I'm completely blanking. Where was the game at the weekend? It was in Detroit, right? Or was it in?
It was in Dallas.
Why are we scoring 20 points? We should be scoring 30 against the Lions in Dallas. Yeah. Anyway, who's the worst team in the league, Lee?
You know the rules. If your team scores 0 points in a week, and alternatively, if your owner throws a drink over the opposing fans, you are the worst team, so it's the Panthers.
Sharps.
Yeah, I think also the fact that they've won like one game this season also cements the fact that it is the Panthers.
Just to be different, I put the Eagles.
I like that. I like that too. Yeah.
I feel like Sharples did something akin to this last week, where he said like this team's playing the worst at the moment.
Yeah,
I can't remember who you said it about. Might have been the Chiefs.
I picked the Niners because I was
the
salty.
Niners, yeah, because you're salty. I'm going to go the Eagles because they do look terrible at the moment. Let's switch it over to fantasy, though. Look at some of the players that won you your championship if you had them. Top 5 quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Joe Flacco. He's the lead.
Yeah.
He's an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Running back.
Lamar Jackson's the MVP, isn't he? 100%. Sewn up.
Yeah. Unless he throws like 10 interceptions this next week and the Ravens lose and Brock Purdy throws 10 touchdowns all to Christian McCaffrey.
McCaffrey's playing,
number 1 on the week. Oh, of course.
Make it even more impressive then, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of something that's impressive, side note, just on a little bit of news, Dalvin Cook, sorry to step on your section, Lou, but Dalvin Cook got released by the Jets today.
He did. It's okay. I did not deem it newsworthy at all. So it isn't in the show
There was
notes.
a tweet. Well, all I'm saying is he must be looking in pretty good shape because a tweet went out saying if Dalvin Cook rushes for 1,036 yards in Week 18, he'll trigger a $400,000 bonus. And then he got released just after that tweet came out. So maybe the Jets were seeing Dalvin Cook and they were like, actually,
yeah,
he's looking pretty.
I saw something similar and I felt bad for Dalvin actually because he nearly got himself a record. Because if he'd have got 1,484 yards in that last match, he would have actually set the Jets' season for rushing. So it just feels cruel that they've taken that chance away from him.
Yeah, he must have been looking pretty darn good. Who knows, maybe they've dropped him so that he can join a contender. I don't know who would want him. It's just strange how fast things happen, I suppose, because Dalvin Cook, it wasn't that long ago that he was one of the better fantasy options and running backs in the whole league. Anyway, speaking of good running backs, Karen, number 1. Karen Williams...
Where does he go next year? I'd take him in the first round.
Good question. Whoa, okay. The sheer touchdown volume scares me. It's a bit like Austin Eckler of previous years, where he's scored so many touchdowns this year at a like video game rate when he plays. Like when they get around the red zone, it's like they don't think about doing anything else. I don't want to look to replicate that, if you know what I mean.
True. I just think he goes first round because he will be a top 5 running back. He'll be taken in the top 5 of running backs. If he's a top 5 running backs, he's probably going to be a first rounder next year. The yardage is great. He's still a young guy. I think he's first rounder.
Receiving work as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, as much as we try and make this committee narrative in Los Angeles, Sean McVay wants a bell cow running back. Everything he's done with Todd Gurley, when Darrell Henderson was the guy. He wants a guy at running back.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really interesting idea of, like, you know, picking out some of these players from this year that maybe were unknown and asking kind of, okay, at the moment, at the end of this season, where are they going next year? I think that's something that we're going to do before we kind of shut down for the off-season, definitely. But another running back that will probably be brought up is Isaiah Pacheco. He was number 2 on the week. Breece Hall, number 3. James Conner and Jerome Ford. Etienne, Najee, Achan, Justice Hill and Khalil Herbert all having good games. Wide receivers, Lamb, Adams, DJ Moore, Reed, Ayuk. Pope Pie's in there with a good game as well, as is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And tight ends, Lou, you picked it. You picked the number 1 tight end on the week. Juwan Johnson. Isaiah Likely in there as well. And Njoku, Goddard, Laporta. There's one for you. Let's dig into this a little bit. Next year, I really need to look at Mark Andrews' contract situation, because Isaiah Likely's just been great since Andrews went down.
That one-handed grab, one-handed catch was mental. To catch it one-handed on, like, in stride as well.
Yeah,
and the great grab from Juwan Johnson as well. Like, tight ends have... Surprisingly this year, tight ends have sort of shown up this year.
Yeah. Apart from the main one, no, we're still no clues as to why though. Any standout fantasy performances this week though? Sharples.
So I have to say a quick shout out to CD Lamb. 40 or so points would have won me the Super Bowl if I'd have got there. But there is one man I need to shout out. I mentioned this to you boys. Now, obviously, I've made it quite known and been quite vocal about it that I think kickers are the most pointless people on the planet, particularly in terms of fantasy. I've much preferred the league I'm in, where we don't have kickers, we have an extra flex option. I think it's much more enjoyable, you get much more skill, that kind of thing. But I was trailing in the Shmoney League, and Harrison Butker scored 24 points, and I won. So shout out to Harrison Butker. Always believed in you, always been rooting for your kid. Peace.
Yeah, and losing the championship week to a kicker is one of the many reasons why people get scared away from playing fantasy football. Lou?
Lamb, parentheses, my fantasy MVP. Look back at the tape. He was my MVP. I said this would happen. I said this would happen. Unreal performance. Set the Cowboys single season receiving yardage and receptions record. An amazing fantasy league winning performance.
Now I'm gonna change the tone. I'm gonna read some busts out, some players that were awful or just didn't do you any favours in your championship week. And I want both of you. I want you to pick out a name, and if you maybe had any of these on a team of yours, or if you did have them on a team and you remember watching them at the weekend, what was going through your head? Because I've got one in my mind immediately. But Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, surprise. Jameer, we told you not to play him. Jameer Gibbs, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, Pat Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. Now, for me personally, my brain was exploding, not understanding why Mike Evans wasn't being thrown the ball. It was triggering, and I was completely tilting. I just didn't understand they were trailing in this game, and this guy's been unbelievable for you all season. Yeah, that's the name that's obviously stuck out to me. I've been a big fan of Mike Evans all year. I don't know why he wasn't being thrown the ball. Lou?
Out of all those, the personal one for me is Chris Olave, because I drafted Chris Olave in quite a few leagues, and it's just a frustrating season, I'd say. Like, you can see the past few weeks he's been really good, but for the majority of the season he's not looked that much in sync with Derek Carr. Just frustrating. So Olave for me, really.
Sharps.
Not really got a specific name. I also had Mike Evans, but obviously I had the mighty Harrison Butker, so it didn't matter. But I just think that highlights a trend that for me has been quite a concerning one all season. Top tier running backs that were drafted high have been sinking teams this season. I look back through our draft in our main league. Obviously, I took McCaffrey third pick. I'm a genius. But Austin Eckler was a consensus top 5 pick, and I would have been happy to have him. He's been a bust. Tony Pollard, I think, is finishing up at the RB 14. He went 7th. Saquon went 10th in ours. I think he's about the RB 16. Obviously, Henry's been a disaster. Chubb injured, barely played all season. It's really been a season for wide receivers, I think, this year. And I know that in previous years I've always liked to have 2 top-tier running backs and I don't have to pick in the wasteland. But this year, I think if you picked in the running back wasteland, you probably did better than most people who secured what they thought was going to be a top 10 running back this year.
Yeah, I mean, based on the previous 2 years of fantasy football, I would encourage people, especially if you're in like a double flex league or a 3 wide receiver league, to kind of emphasise filling up on wide receivers. That's what I've done the previous few years. But yeah, my lack of points whenever I've had bad scores this year has been those running backs, those quote top tier running backs just not pulling the weight, not performing. And spoilers, I bet our fantasy bust of the year award goes to a running back. I would almost guarantee it.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I've got someone else in mind.
The guy I'm thinking of, guys, it's been so bad, we've just got to shake it off this season.
Well, lad, the guy I'm thinking of, you could say he's Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince. Yeah.
The guy I'm thinking of sounds a bit like Kermit the Frog.
Okay.
The guy I'm thinking of is also my head to the booth. The recording booth with his girlfriend.
Oh, I've got to head into the booth though, and I think I've hit the jackpot on this one. Hear me out, lads. Head into the booth, right? Tom Brady. Google it.
Okay.
Is that the guy who just sacked Wayne Rooney?
Oh yeah.
Wayne, it's now working out, man.
Who's that?
He picked them up at 6th and he got sacked at 20th.
Nice.
Like, it's not even funny.
The Brady effect.
Ridiculous.
The Brady effect.
What I mean, listen, we know what Brady's reputation is. Is there a chance that he just goes down to the touchline himself and says, "Give me a few games, let me see what I've got"?
I think he does.
Maybe he's watched that show Ted Lasso and he wants to do that.
Maybe he's watched too much Ted Lasso and too much Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah. Both of those shows that I've not seen a single second of, but that Ted Lasso looks really bad. Anyway. But what do we know? We don't know anything about that sort of stuff. Heading for the booth, Lou.
Yeah, I just said he's heading to the recording booth with his girlfriend, Travis Kelce.
Okay. But that was a great one from you.
Go
on.
Could I chip in with one? I think I've got a genuine one.
Of course.
Which is sad to see. I think Jason Kelce might be done at the end of this year, and I could see him getting a commentary job. I know he's got a successful podcast going. He seems like a nice guy.
I bet he goes to the guys who do Thursday night, like Fitzpatrick and the big offensive line guy Whitworth, who used to play for. I bet he goes like to Prime on a Thursday night with them guys.
Could see that.
Yeah. So
in the booth. So you're saying he's going to be in the booth with Al Michaels?
Potentially, yeah.
Well, I hope he's brought his pillow and duvet.
Okay. How our player picks did?
Could probably act as both.
Yeah. How our player picks did. Well, I mean, it was fine, wasn't it, lads? Lou, Tua, Taylor and Thielen all were okay. Joan Johnson, tight end one on the week, well done.
No, can I just say, Thielen, incredible that Bryce Young had the best game of his career. He lured me in, and then he had the worst game of his career.
Yeah.
When you picked that, I was just laughing to myself because I knew that's exactly what would happen. 'Cause I've had
Against
my team.
that secondary as well, who everyone has just been throwing bombs all over.
Well, lads, we need to. I think we need 4 hits each next week. Is all I'm saying, in order to catch up last year's hits record. So we're not joking next week, but of course the CJ Stroud one for me was a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 12 points. 12 points. It was a miss. I felt for sure that Stroud was going to go completely off in this game. I'm still a bit baffled as to what happened, but I mean, they won, so whatever, I suppose. Ford, 26 points, very nice. Rice had a really good game, but because his projection was super high, he didn't end up being a hit at 17.7 points, and Okonkwo was just fine. Again, Sharples, Carr, and Hubbard were both fine. George Pickens was a hit, though. Pickens has been really good towards the end of the year. And Kyle Pitts got outscored by superstar Falcons tight end Michael Pruitt.
I don't know why I didn't just pick Taysom Hill. His projections have gone back low again. Do you know what? I'll tell you why I didn't, and I'm surprised any of them was hit. I was in such a malaise last week about being eliminated that I should not have been on the show, to be honest with you. Like, I was providing nothing. So that's probably why I picked Kyle Pitts. It wasn't about any pain or any kind of black mould. It was just crushing mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle Pitts. What a career. Lou, news and injuries?
Yeah, got a few. Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, no.
Fantasy Championship dream killer. Christian McCaffrey. Again, incredibly poetic that the guy who's probably got you there lost it for you through no fault of his own.
Let's just remind you that some weirdos do have their fantasy championships in week 18.
Which is why we're still doing our projection beaters this week.
Yeah.
Enjoy that, weirdos.
Christian McCaffrey knocked out of the game and held out with a calf injury. He says it was just a precaution, but that precaution will continue into this next week. He's not going to play against the Rams. Why would you? They're the number 1 seed. You know, we're not doing this whole thing that they did a few months back where it's like, he needs to get the touchdown record every game. No, sit him out. You know, it makes a lot of sense.
Have you been working on your Kyle Shanahan impression?
Jalen Reed, wide receiver for the Packers, ruled out of a chest injury. X-rays are negative. Team are awaiting further testing. He could miss Green Bay's Week 18, crucial Week 18 game. Tua left the game with a shoulder injury. Late on, though, so my projection beer isn't void. Left it very late on. Team aren't worried. He should be good to go this week. Alvin Kamara was ruled out of the Saints game before half-time after suffering an ankle sprain. No word on the severity, but you've got to think Kamara is at least in danger of missing this next week. Devonta Smith also exited the Eagles game and was seen in a walking boot and crutches on the sideline, which isn't good. The optics of that aren't great, I'd say. Looks like he's also dealing with an ankle sprain. He was in crutches and a walking boot earlier this week as well. His availability will be in question in Week 18 if he's in a bloody walking boot. And then rookie Will Levis ruled out with a foot injury. That guy's been beat up as well. And that's the injuries.
Yeah. Any news?
Panthers owner was fined $300,000 for throwing a drink over Jags fans.
Right.
Do you reckon he saw any of that money? Because if I was him and the league had fined him $300,000, I'd be saying, "Where's my slice of pie?"
Also speaks to how much of a moron David Tepper clearly is. I suppose elsewhere, you've got Michigan versus Washington in the college football playoffs. Some interesting prospects coming out of that game, like Blake Corum, the Michigan running back, who will probably be worth a look at over the summer period. But anyway, should we start looking forward to the Weirdo Championship?
Weirdo week.
Weirdo week. Yeah, that's going to stick, I think. Weirdo week. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone's favourite player to hate, everyone's favourite worst player in the league, Jalen Reagor, who housed one at the start of the Patriots game. I did not even realise Jalen Reagor played for the Patriots, so that was very good. But anyway, we'll start looking forward to the fantasy players that you're going to want to play in Weirdo Week 18. We'll start with the Forget About It.
Forget about it.
At the quarterback position, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, if he plays, keep an eye on that one. Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Justin Fields.
Forget about it.
If I say any player whose team is kind of locked in the 1 seed or locked in the playoffs who aren't really playing for anything, just know to be aware that these people might be sat. Hence why we don't do Championship Week in Week 18. But anyway, running back, Karen, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Rashad White, Travis Etienne, Raheem Mostert, Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner.
Forget about it.
What a weird list of names if you were to look at that at the start of the season and say that these were the running back Forget About It's in Week 18. Wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman, and the 2 Rams boys.
Forget about it.
Tight end, Laporta, Kittle, and Njoku, McBride. And is he in there?
No.
I think he's going to sit.
You think he's going to sit?
I don't think he's going to play.
For the first time ever, we're not going to say a certain name in the tight end Forget About It section.
And to add insult to injury,
Forget about it.
I would wager that he's none of our starts either. Because he's going to sit.
He's not. He's not.
And even
Projection
if he was playing this player, I'm not playing him.
No, me neither. Even if he was playing, I would probably say to him something like, I forgot that you existed.
Is that a Taylor Swift song?
Yeah.
I really need to brush up on these for next year. I'm feeling left behind.
I'll be honest with you. I opened my Spotify because 5 minutes ago we were listing off Taylor Swift songs, and that was in front of me by chance.
Was that a Taylor Swift song, Sharples?
I need to brush up on these next summer.
That could be one. I'm gonna randomly just scroll through now and pick one at nothing and make a pun out of it.
Okay.
You could say that in this season, this player has been in a lavender haze.
Okay.
Which I actually think is quite poetic and apt.
That is true because
that
is quite apt because the AFC has been dominated by the Ravens. Purple more than lavender, but
and he's fallen in love and he's in some haze. Okay, yeah. Projection beaters, Week 18, players that we think are going to outscore the ESPN projections by 4 or more points. We need 4 hits each this week to even stand a chance of catching up to our hit ratio from last year and proving that the podcast hasn't gone completely downhill in Season 2. Let's start with a running back, and we'll start with Alex Sharples.
Okay, well, first of all, just for the record, my ESPN app is not looking like it normally does, and so I haven't been able to do quite as good analysis in terms of like how good people are against defending the run and all that stuff. However, I've picked Devon A-Chain, running back of the Miami Dolphins, projected 12.6. Now, quite interestingly, his partner in crime, his tag team partner, Raheem Mostert, is projected 13.3, but has a big fat Q next to his name. I don't think he's going to play. Not because he's being rested, because he's in a big game, but I just don't. I think, well, he might play, but I think A-Chan is more than capable of taking up most of the work. And when he does that, we know what he can do. Got himself a big week last week, 23.7, 107 rushing yards off a mere 14 attempts, and got himself a receiving touchdown. He's had plenty of receiving work as well. 12.6 is an absolute steal for this man in a game that means something. This is a certainty, Al. I'm putting my hat on this one, the one with AC/DC on it, the one I really like.
Okay, and I assume if he's not a hit, you're going to eat it.
Yes, with some onion gravy.
Good stuff. Lou?
I'm going to go with Aaron Jones, running back for the Green Bay Packers, projected 14 points. Like we're saying, we're picking guys who are in games that mean something. This is a must-win game for the Packers, not a must-win.
Muskin Wayne.
Sounds like a Wild West cowboy, Muskin Way.
Look, it's Muskin Wayne here, coming into town.
Okay.
This is a Muskin Wayne for the Packers. If they win, they're in.
Yeah.
So they might have to lean on Jones more than usual with all the injuries at wide receiver that they've had constantly through the year, but especially the past few weeks. Backfield partner AJ Dillon also exited this game this past week with an arm injury. So, he could be out. At the very least, he could be hampered. More work for Jones. I'm expecting him to get around 20 touches in this one, which is what he's been seeing, averaging over the past 3 weeks since coming back from injury. His opponent this week, on paper, it's a tough matchup. The Bears, who we said before, not that bad of a team. The Bears have actually given up the fewest rushing yards of any team this season. Decent rushing defence. Where they have been generous is through the air to running backs. They've allowed 7 receiving touchdowns and a league-high 973 receiving yards to running backs, on the way to allowing 24 fantasy points per game to the position. So I think, context, the matchup, his team's reliance on him, the weakness of some phases of this defence, I think Jones is a strong start.
Nice. Nice. And I'm going to go Seattle Seahawks running back Chet Johnson.
I'm going to go for must-win game. Must-win win.
Muskin Way. Kenneth Walker, projected 15.9 at Arizona. It's been a very up and down season for the Seattle running back, who I think we were all ready to crown as one of the new running back studs at the end of last season, start of this season. But it's been a bit of an injury-riddled one, and as such, Walker has struggled to find consistency. You just look at his last 4 game logs: 9 points, 20 points, 6 points, 16 points. Now, he does currently have a slight knock, but this is a must-win game for Seattle against Arizona, and they need to get in the playoffs, and we know how talented Walker is. Seattle have no choice but to put the best guys out there. That is Walker, not Charbonnet. I don't think Charbonnet is a threat to Walker. You just need to look at the stats when both are healthy. Arizona are giving up 146 rushing yards per game, which is one of the worst in the whole league. If he suits up in this one, which I think he will, expect a very solid effort from Ken Walker. Or, as he's going to be called this week, Ken Runner into the end zone.
Very nice.
What about your wide receiver, Sharps?
Now, that is an interesting question. And yet again, I am forced to ask myself why I do this to myself, why I pick these players. And I don't know. The truth is, I don't know. It's the last week of the year. I don't think I'm going to win anyway, so I might as well have some fun with it. This man, this siren of the wide receiver position, he just looks cute as a button, but he will stab you in the face if you put too much trust in him. He's boom bust, very boom bust, probably the most boom bust guy. He boomed 2 weeks ago against the Chargers with 23 points.
Can I ask a question in a second,
Yes.
Sharples? Is this person cheeky?
Oh, he's the cheekiest. He's the cheekiest of all. He busted last week against the Patriots with a massive 4.1. He's only projected 9.3 points. It is cheeky Gabe Davis. I just think he might score a touchdown, and that's all I really need for him to get a hit.
Yeah.
No rhyme or reason. I'm trying to make my peace with him because I've slated him a bit this year, deservedly. He's been on my bench every time he's had a good game. So, yeah, Gabe Davis.
Cheeky Gabe. I feel like Cheeky Gabe was your very first pick of last season at the wide receiver position against the Rams. I remember that about Cheeky Gabe.
I think he was.
Luke?
I'm going to steal Sharples' wide receiver from last week and pick George Pickens, projected 12.2. In 2 games with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, Pickens has 11 receptions, 326 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, which is pretty decent numbers. Numbers that you can't really ignore, despite how sceptical I am of the quarterback throwing him the ball. The two of them must have had some decent reps in training together earlier this season and last season, because that rapport has been pretty immediate. Pickens is by far his favourite target out of all the wide receivers, if you look at the numbers. And like all these games that we're talking about, this is a must-win game for the Steelers. If they want a chance to get in the playoffs, this is sort of out of the Steelers' hands a bit, but if they win, they give themselves obviously the best shot. Going to be an intense one because it's against the Ravens, who, the Ravens might be sitting some starters in this one on both sides of the ball, but I'm sure they'll relish the opportunity to dump the AFC North divisional rival out of playoff contention. So I think it's going to be a competitive one, as I highlighted with my quarterback pick last week as well. The Ravens have been sneakily leaky through the air over the past month. They're giving up over 267 passing yards per game over the past 4 games. So they're beatable in that aspect, and the Steelers are going to have to come out swinging, put the foot down in this one on offense if they want the best chance of winning the game. So I think Pickens' hot streak continues.
Okay. Now, just obviously, we've got Mason Rudolph at quarterback. I just did a quick Google of what does Rudolph do after Christmas. It's taken me to a Washington Post article that says, reindeer, what do they do the other 364 days of the year? It's not loaded yet. I'll update you when that loads, and maybe that will cloud your wide receiver pick, Lou, if it says something like they can't throw touchdowns anymore. Not sure.
Cheers.
But I'm going to go Jalen Waddle, projected 14.8 versus Buffalo. They really missed him last week in the loss to Baltimore. The Dolphins did. Although you could argue that on the whole, it's been a disappointing season for Waddle. He did have a great run of form in kind of the period from the Week 10 bye to just before his recent injury. In weeks 11 to 15, Waddle was averaging almost 22 fantasy points a game, 8 receptions and 116 receiving yards. By no means is the matchup against Buffalo this week an easy one, but Waddle just had 2 really good games against the Jets, who rank first against fantasy wide receivers. And of course, you've got Tyreek over the other side, who's going to draw most of the focus of the defense. It's a must-win game for the Dolphins and a must-score points game as well. So give me Jalen Waddle to play a key role, right, lads? A key role, get ready for this, in a Dolphins loss. Ooh. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills in this one, but I do think Jalen Waddle has a good game.
I think you have a nice little bet builder on there. Waddle over a certain amount of yards, but Bills still win. Can you get a decent amount?
Bills win, Waddle over 75 yards. Oh, yeah. Sharples, who's your quarterback?
My quarterback is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. Projected 16.8 points. Now, I've picked him a few times this season. Never busted. A hit with the first 2, and then, annoyingly, a few weeks ago, he got about 17 or 18. It wasn't quite a hit. But since then, 24 and 28 points, respectively. Just looks really, really good. He's got himself up to quarterback 5 on the year, which are pretty astounding. I think most people sort of dropped him sort of after week 6 or 7. He had a bit of a downturn. But if you picked him up around then, he's probably helped get you to the playoffs. And it's an important match. Packers sniffing around the playoffs, as Lou mentioned when he talked about Aaron Jones. I think there's going to be points in this one. The Bears also have something to prove. I saw that Justin Fields' record against the Packers is absolutely atrocious. It's something like 10 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Don't quote me on it, but it's bad. So he's got something to play for. I just think it's going to be a high-scoring match, and I think 16.8, again, given his last few weeks, is quite a low projection. And I like him. So, Jordan Love this week.
Jordan Love in week 12 was your last hit at the quarterback position. Sharples, so you really need one. Lou, who's yours?
I'm going to with Derek Carr. Saints quarterback projected 14.8 points. It's been an insert adjective first season in New Orleans for Derek Carr. Adjectives you could use: bad, interesting, underwhelming, frustrating. There seemed to be something missing, whether it's his sort of rapport with his receivers or ability to manage games, and he's been pretty banged up as well, so he's sat out a few games and played injured and all that sort of stuff. But to his credit, he's actually playing his best football of the season right now when it's sort of sink or swim time for the Saints. Over the past 3 weeks, he's the quarterback 8 in fantasy football with a 8-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. And he's had his 2 best fantasy performances of the season in weeks 15 and 16, just a couple of weeks ago. And I think that form continues again in a must-win game. I keep saying it, must-win game. If they win it, they have a chance to get in the playoffs against divisional rival Atlanta Falcons. Hopefully should be a juicy one. Falcons have been pretty much middle of the pack this year in terms of defending the pass and fantasy production to quarterback. So it's a narrative one for me, really, this one. Carr he's one of the only quarterbacks this week who, number one, isn't a backup, and number two, actually has something to play for. So, yeah, I'm going with Carr.
And just off the back of that, I'm going for a backup who's got nothing to play for. Don't ask me why I'm doing it, but I'm going Tyrod Taylor, projected 15.4 versus Philadelphia. Well, actually, do ask me why I'm doing it, because it's against Philadelphia. As usual, whenever Tyrod Taylor plays, he looks pretty solid. 279 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 25 rushing yards, and 319 passing yards, 1 touchdown with 40 rushing yards are the stats that he's put up in the limited number of starts that he's had this season. Philly have been playing pretty terribly on both sides of the ball recently, so you can make the argument that they might rest the key defensive players, sure, to make a nicer matchup for Taylor, but how can this defense get any worse than it already is? I hope they don't rest the players, because that might make them a bit better, to be honest, than the guys they've got out there at the minute. They're giving up 249 passing yards per game, and it just seems to be getting worse. They're completely out of sorts at the minute. The Giants, on the other hand, just gave the Rams a really tough game, and I think they're going to want to finish the season off strong at home against a division rival who they could perhaps finish off mentally before the playoffs even begin. Certainly a deep one, and I know I'm hoping for some rushing upside here, but there aren't too many better matchups to target in the league at the minute than Philly's defense. No good news on the reindeer, by the way. They just graze and stuff, so Rudolph should be okay.
Nice one.
For you, Lou. Runs off with the tight ends, Sharps.
Well, this man, the description of him in the ESPN fantasy app is absolutely perfect. It really sums him up. This dynamic playmaker demands ideal circumstances to produce. It puts me in mind of a flower. Its Latin name is Selenacerius grandiflorus. It blooms only once a year and for a single night. But it's beautiful when it blooms. It looks. I'm just looking at it now. It looks almost like a silver jellyfish. Now, to be fair, he's been a hit a few times for me this season, so this guy blooms sort of 4 or 5 times a year. But Taysom Hill.
Yes.
It had to be. Still got a terrific smile. His projections have started to come back down again now that people think that Juwan Johnson's the new flavour of the month. Idiots. It's projected 5.7 points. I think he's got another touchdown in him. And yeah, I really love him. He's probably my favourite player in the league. So it's Taysom Hill.
Lou?
Juwan Johnson is my tight end. Projected 8.6. He was my smash player last week. He looked great. He's a decent tight end. We saw that last year. But you know what? The Saints offense has had its struggles. Quarterback changes because of injuries. There's been competition at the position with stupid Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau. So he's had a bit of an underwhelming season, really. We thought he'd have a better one than he has done. But seems to have found a lovely bit of form as we finish the season. His target share has increased each of the past 3 weeks. In that span, he's the tight end 2. And like his quarterback, Derek Carr, he's playing his best and most fantasy-relevant football of the season right now. I'm betting on him maintaining that this week.
And I'm going to go Jimmy Graham.
What?
No, I'm not. I do think it's absurd that there's 4 tight ends for the Saints that have fantasy projections. I'm going Darren Waller, projected 9.7 versus Philadelphia, just doubling up with my quarterback here. I figure, Tyrod's got to throw it to someone, I suppose. So here's to hoping Waller. He has a bit of a flourish to the end of this disappointing first season in NYC. And as I mentioned, Philly are leaking yards. So let's say Darren Waller has a good one. But it's the weird week game tiers. Week 18, final week of the season. It is a weird week though, isn't it, Lou? Because you don't know who's playing. You don't know who really wants to win, who's not bothered. So I think dubbing it weird week is quite apt. But Sharps, what games are in what tiers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to have some pushback on some of these, but it's how I've interpreted some. I think there's some teams that are going to rest players. Some teams are just straight bad. But here we go. In the bad, we've got Patriots, Jets, Buccaneers, Panthers, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs.
I think Panthers, Buccaneers could be fun for fantasy managers of any Buccaneers players.
That's fair. I just think the Panthers are that bad. I have a hard time putting any of their games in anything but meh. But into the meh, we've got Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars, Titans, Saints, Falcons, Bengals, Browns, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Jaguars Titans has some serious playoff implications, but the Jaguars are just like the worst team in the league to watch.
And yeah, I think the Ravens as well. They're 2 clear games ahead, so they could sit everyone in theory, which is why they're not a bit higher.
They did this a few years ago though, and they just completely were not at the races in the first week of the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Stars play at least a half.
That's fair. Into the good, we've got Colts, Texans, Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears, and the Cardinals against the Seahawks.
Ooh. Colts, Texans should be good.
Yeah, should be a spicy one. Into the great, 2 games in here, 49ers, Rams, and Dolphins, Bills.
Ooh, why 49ers, Rams in there if 49ers could sit players?
They could sit players. I don't think they will. This is just in my head. I don't think they will. And if both teams play decent players, then it should be a good match. But you're right. I thought the Ravens would sit some. I just put it in there. I'll be honest, the great section was looking a bit sparse.
That's fine. I love the honesty. Dolphins Bills is the game there, I think. But that's going to do it. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Hope you win Weird Week. We will be back with an episode in a couple of weeks with some end of season awards, some wrap ups of what's happened. It's probably going to be a pretty long one. We're just going to get some really fun and interesting stuff prepped for that. But thank you for listening all season if you have. We really do appreciate anyone who listens. And we hope you've had fun playing fantasy this year. We hope you've won your fantasy leagues because that's the most important thing, winning. And yeah, best of luck if you are a weirdo and you're playing week 18.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much for listening.
Cheers.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Why did you say bye like 3 times?
I know, you said bye like 3 times.